Hey, what's up guys? Kevin Cage here with another crypto update. Let's kick it off. First up, shared by Ripple, 9 out of 10 central banks are actively exploring central bank digital currencies, and Juniper Research is predicting the CBDC payments could reach $213 billion by 2030. As of June, over 114 countries representing more than 95% of the world's GDP are in various stages of CBDC research and development. I've also seen numbers of 130 countries representing 98% of the world's GDP. And by the end of this year, the world economy's GDP is expected to be around 105 trillion, higher than last year. Now we have James Wallace, he's the Ripple VP of Central Bank Engagement, discussing the government use cases that are growing, and China really leading the charge, one of the BRICS nations, along with Brazil. And what's crazy to think is BlackRock, with $10 trillion in AUM, getting involved in the crypto market. If you pretended BlackRock is a country, because it's basically larger than every single country besides the China and US, and they're getting involved in crypto. And we know the company Ripple is a part of OMFIF, and James Wallace, who I just shared, actually speaks at their annual DMI symposium for several years. And OMFIF is a $43 trillion think tank for central banking, economic policy, and public investment. Now we've seen things with Citi, one of the big three banks that oversees over 80% of all cross-border payments, including HSBC and JP Morgan. And just keep in mind going forward, Ripple's central bank digital currency platform that is powered by the XRP ledger. And please remember all of these stats. So Swift estimates that volumes of tokenized assets could reach $24 trillion by 2027, so just in a few years. We have BCG estimating the tokenization of global illiquid assets could reach 16 trillion to as high as 68 trillion, with the tokenized market estimated to be 10% of global GDP by 2030. So by the end of this year, if global GDP is around 105 trillion, 10% of that is still well over $10 trillion in market opportunity. Now there's a really cool podcast of the Casper Labs CEO talking about this stat of 10% of global GDP being tokenized by 2030. He does think this is going to happen and be crucial for all these industry sectors, but he thinks it's a lot more likely to be between 5 to 9% rather than 10. So if we saw the world's GDP improve by 5% in a single year, maybe in the coming years the global GDP would be over 120 trillion. If we took 10% of that to measure the tokenized market around 12 trillion, let's do 7%. So it's a tad more realistic between that 5 to 9% range. That's still $8 to $9 trillion in the size of the tokenized market in the future. We know cross-border payments are expected to grow massively to 250 trillion by 2027. And we have a variety of other asset classes that will be tokenized, and keep in mind there will be new asset classes and new monetization opportunities with intellectual property, royalties, automation with smart contracts, IoT, tracking, supply chain, healthcare, fraud mitigation. Every single sector can use this type of secure tamper-proof tech. So when we look at the crypto asset class sitting at 1 trillion, I'm a big believer that this grows to 3 trillion to 5 to 8 trillion in the coming years. And looking at the crypto asset class's actual market cap or size over the past 10 years and looking at the growth, multi-year bear markets, bull run, multi-year bear market, bull run. If we continue to follow this ascending channel upwards year over year, we're likely going to break into new all-time highs. So we have some big news right here from Citi, one of the big three banks debuting deposit and trade services on blockchain for institutional clients. They'll be tokenizing client deposits so they can be sent anywhere in the world instantly. So we're seeing global banks, custodians, companies all tokenizing their assets off-chain and putting them on-chain. And the benefits of tokenization are huge. There's a plethora of benefits, including better liquidity. You can fractionalize the ownership. There's better accessibility, transparency. You can cut out middlemen, lower the costs. You have better security. You have better record keeping and auditability, improved settlement times, reduced paperwork, reduced fraud. It just goes on, and blockchain is going to play a huge role in this. And this bank is now using smart contracts to automate the trade process as well, and I guarantee other global banks, even smaller banks, are already working on this. And for their personal expectations of the tokenization market, they say that for financial markets, they need to be tokenized using blockchain tech. And they see about $5 trillion of real-world financial assets being tokenized on blockchain over the next 5 years. So these are financial assets. There will be other assets that are tokenized as well. So we know equity funds and alternative investments are going to be a big deal. We have mutual funds. And then you have JP Morgan working on blockchain international trade. And in this video interview, I'll play a little bit. If you've already seen it, feel free to fast forward. But she talks about the importance of these regulatory frameworks. And if regulation was there, they could use public chains.
Multiple bank accounts in multiple different regions, cross-border, and you keep buffers of cash in each of these regions. It's really an inefficient use of cash. So think of the future where you can do just-in-time funding. If it's Saturday or it's Friday night, 5 p.m. in the US and 5 a.m. in Singapore, but you need to get money there, you can send that immediately within seconds. And I think that really adds that kind of like that benefit for clients.
That's funny, and just like shared by digital asset investors. So this is from head of digital assets over at Citi, using the same talking points that Ripple the company and Brad Garlinghouse have been doing for over 4 years on the news, with actual live availability of doing this and solving the pre-funding issue using the XRP ledger. But the powers that be, the SEC and these other organizations, made sure that Ripple the company was tied up in a 2+ year lawsuit.
Yeah, so we've built this platform on a ERC20 EVM compatible protocol, which is really important. You know, there's a lot of legislation out there in the marketplace right now in regards to stablecoins and crypto. And if any of these bills pass and our clients want to start using these, we'll have an enabled platform. So having this ERC20 token, which will be fungible, you know, today, day one, we're doing it for, you know, tokenized deposits, cash management, efficiencies in trade.
So in this clip, Citi explains they're using a permissioned version of the Ethereum blockchain. So this is currently permissioned and private, but if regulations change and open things up, they're able to enable their platform to use some of these public networks, which is very important in future-proofing this tech. We've talked about blockchain 1 is Bitcoin, blockchain 2 is Ethereum, and blockchain 3 includes some new hybrid networks, consortiums, and even better L1s with better security, scalability, and decentralization. But blockchain 4 will incorporate connecting the public and the hybrid networks to get the best of both worlds, because there are trade-offs using each. The future of tokenization is going to rely on interoperability between these public networks that are actually used with some of these private and hybrid chains.
And I think what you just said means that you are using a permissioned version of the Ethereum blockchain. And, you know, we've been talking about this for several months now. We talked about it together earlier this year in the spring, but public blockchains, you know, I know it's early in the game and this is, you know, the way you're doing it now is the way you have to do it. But do you ever see there being a day or a reason for Citi itself or for a bank in general to implement public blockchains?
It's going to really depend on regulation, in my opinion, because right now it's only permissible for us to be on a permission chain. So if regulation changes and regulators get comfortable with public, we will definitely go down that route. But right now, from a regulatory standpoint, we're sticking with permission. So it really depends, I think, on that. And as you know, today we've talked about in the past, it's very bifurcated across the different regions, right? Between the US, EMEA, Asia, the different regulations coming out in this space. So it'll be, I think, more to come kind of in the future on that. But, you know, we're making it where we are future-proofing our system, that if that does happen, we can move to a public chain.
Now, some of the biggest news that came from HBAR recently was even this presentation. Remember that Generation Infinity shared this months ago. So the future of payments, transparency, and proof of reserves. This is WorldPay from FIS. FIS sits on Hedera's Global Governing Council. They were a huge organization, and they acquired this company called WorldPay a while back. And if you guys got the news from the presentation from head of crypto over at WorldPay discussing future of payments and addressing stablecoin uncertainty using proof of reserve that is actually built on Hedera's network. So using Hedera's hashgraph for proof of reserve of stablecoins. On the FIS website, just to look at WorldPay and how big this organization really is, they process over 40 billion transactions and $1.7 trillion of payment volume annually. So almost $2 trillion in annual payment volume. So this is a great partner to have. So remember Citi believing that $5 trillion of financial assets will be tokenized in the future, but there's a lot of other assets that will be tokenized, including data for healthcare and records. It could be government assets such as permits and licenses. For supply chain, it could be products and goods and actual tracking of these products. For shipping and logistics, cargo and containers, insurance, all these policies and leasing agreements will be tokenized. And looking at this chart, this is the chart of global crypto users. So back in 2020, guys, right here, Q3 2020, there were approximately 100 million users of crypto globally. You can see what a crypto bull run does in 2021. It captures attention, it's on the news, from 100 million to over 400 million users globally. So last cycle's bull run literally 4x'd the amount of users globally. We're well on the road to 1 billion plus users, and the internet users today is roughly 5 billion. Next up, so we mentioned this in the past, but this is going to go into my next point. So Crédit Agricole, this is the second largest bank in France, and they're working with the Casper Association, joining forces to study use cases of Web3. So looking at Web3 use cases of tokenization and smart contracts in the realm of finance. So Crédit Agricole is France's second largest bank after BNP Paribas, with total assets in US dollar even back in 2020 of approximately $2.7 trillion. We have shared by X Frontier some key highlights for Casper this year thus far. There are events including Blockchain Hub in Davos, Consensus, Token 2049, SALT, etc. Also at the Digital and Securities Conference in Frankfurt, all types of huge banks attend. The Casper wallet launched, but keep in mind the mobile version will be launching shortly. You can keep tabs on casperwallet.io. And please remember this OpenEXO partnership because this is huge for the development of Casper. They are directly connected to so many Fortune 500s. And also keep tabs on XPRIZE. So for the rest of 2023, we're waiting for the IPW minting. I just heard the Casper Lab CEO say it's happening by end of year. We also had Neve say that supposedly September this month, they were supposed to mint the first 1 million. I did confirm with Casper that yes, this is happening. This is not vaporware where they say this is a solution that's not actually going live. They're going to be working with IPW and this deployment will be going through. So keep in mind 100% of the $7 billion in aggregate value of this IP is going to be connected and secured to Casper's public network. So if done correctly, this will be one of the largest enterprise deployments that is leveraging a public network such as Casper. We know USDC stablecoins are on the way not only from Circle but also from Sarsen Funds. And Casper 2.0 is right around the corner. Also remember the Chengdu chain deployment with the blockchain service network in China, leveraging Casper's network for smart city tech. We also had some more developments for Coinbase, so we're going to talk about their futures, but we can see officially launches in Canada as well. And we had this development recently. Coinbase finally wins approval to list crypto futures in the US. So futures trading is huge for speculative volume, and this is great for any asset class. You want tons of volume and liquidity, and therefore prices have much higher chances of going higher. And as we know, in the $6 trillion per day volume of the foreign exchange market, 87% of that $6 trillion per day is speculation. The remaining 13% are actual central banks. So speculation actually plays a much bigger role than we think in the actual liquidity and volume of a system. So there will be leveraged crypto futures alongside the traditional spot trading in Coinbase, and it says for eligible investors. So I'm hoping this is for everybody because for cracking the exchange, for example, I believe you have to have at least $10 million in crypto to be able to trade futures. I'm not sure there's another way to get upgraded to the pro account because I don't use Kraken too much, but feel free to correct me. So they want approval to list futures. I'm just hoping this is eligible for everyday people and not just people that have over $10 million in crypto. And this is overall a good thing. I want more speculation, I want more volume in the crypto asset class, and I want other exchanges to follow, and I want the US to get their act together and actually allow this. Because all of my friends outside of the US have a much easier time in actually finding exchanges to do all these types of trades. So eligible US customers, so curious what that means. And we'll finish up with this today. You can doubt crypto. You can have a pessimistic view of the market today. You can think that this bear market will last longer, but we're still going to have multiple bull runs in the future. If you enjoyed this video, I'd greatly appreciate if you could hit the like button, let me know your thoughts down below, and my link tree is linked in the top of this YouTube video description, with all links, crypto resources, and discounts. I'll catch you in the next one.